Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls online build video with me, Sherman, and today guys I bring you something a little different than what I've done in the past. I've changed up the Paladin build and changed its name to the Paladin of Meridia, and it's a lot more aggressive, it's a lot more I'm gonna get in your face and bring as much pain as I possibly can. So let's go ahead and get into this. So taking a look at the character screen here, we are the Paladin of Meridia. Now you can say that you're a Paladin of whatever god of light or entity of light you want. Gotta do something here. Forgot to set myself back to having full health and everything. So we are a Breton with this. Now, I'm not going to say Breton is the best, but Breton is really good for this because of the fact they get increased magicka, they get increased magicka recovery, they can play a little bit more on the magicka side, a little bit better than some of the others. So as you can see, we have 21k magicka, 25, almost 26 I would say, k health, 28k max stamina. We do have a 1034 mag recovery, 397 health recovery, 557 stamina recovery. Our spell damage is coming in at 1535 with a 19% spell critical. Not too worried about that side too much, but 2504 weapon damage with a 38.1% weapon crit. Now our spell resistance is 24,000. Our physical resistance is 21,790, and this is where you kind of get this offset of things. But a lot of that has to do with the champion points, how I have them set up, because I do like a universal thing. I put 4 into there, and I put the rest into the heavy armor. But that's okay. You still have a good survivability. Now, moving on. We are using the Lover Mundus Stone. Now, you can use the Lord Mundus Stone for increased health. You can use the Steed Mundus Stone for increased health recovery. You can use the Warrior Mundus Stone if you want for increased weapon damage. You can even use the Thief Mundus Stone for increased crit. But I find with this particular setup, using the Lover really plays into the strengths of this particular setup, because you do get Major Breach and Major Fracture, but you also get that little bit of extra penetration value from the Lover Mundus that allows you more ways to inflict damage to your enemies. You do have Major Savagery at all times, and this is, remember, and I'm going to point this out now before I get to the skills and everything. The way I set the skills is for my own personal preference. If you see something wrong with the skills and how it plays for you, that's why I unlock other skills, is so you have more options available. So it is optional. The next thing is we are using Tri-Stat food. Going on to equipment, the better type of food and drink is Tripods, and of course the Tri-Stat food. Now, you can use Warrior Power Pots with this character as well when you're not playing him as normal, because you do use a lot of stamina with this build when you're out and about by yourself. So having that resource return of stamina and plus the extra weapon damage, the extra weapon critical, all that stuff can play into your favor. So you can actually drop that fighter's buff and change it out. Alright, now we're going to take a look at the sets, starting with the main set we run, which is our 5-piece body set. You're going to see I have 2 body sets, though, or 2 sets mixed. I'm not using a monster set with this. So we have Gladiators, or Kvetch's Gladiators. Kvetch's Gladiator on a sword and shield user is actually really good. And the main reason why it's really good is because when you're playing in heavy armor, you don't have any tools to give you a lot of extra weapon damage or a lot of extra weapon crit. So this just gives you that little bit. But the thing where this shines is most of your damage doesn't come from ability spamming. It comes from, or ability rotation. It comes from light and heavy attacks. So when you get an enemy below 25% health, that's where this set really shines. So the 2 and 3 piece weapon crit, 4 piece weapon damage, 5 piece, you gain 1475 weapon damage against targets who are at or below 25% health. So when you get the enemy to 25% health, you get 1800 or 1400 weapon damage added to your already existing weapon damage for your light and heavy attacks. So it makes you a more aggressive player at that point. So it's just getting them to that point that can be tough. But once you get them there, you start busting out heavier damage and now they don't know what to do because you've got this more aggressive playstyle. The other set we're running, and this is one I really like for this build, and that is Knights Errant. Now, Knights Errant's actually a really powerful set for anyone playing with Sword and Shield, because it gives you, on the 2-piece max health, 3-piece max stamina, 4-piece weapon damage, and then the 5-piece. Adds 200 weapon damage to your one-handed and shield abilities. When you use a one-handed shield ability, you heal for 1375 health. So this also plays in the idea of, like, you're a paladin of light. You are a paladin of that protects others, and you're using this set to kind of play into that aspect of, hey, I got to stay alive. Anytime I use my sword and shield abilities, I'm going to heal myself. So it's got that nice trade-off. So that's the 2 5-piece sets we're running. Now, I'm going to show you how I have these set up. So on the body, I have the helm, the shoulders, the gloves, the belt, and the boots of Kvetch's Gladiator. Then I have the legs and the chest of Knights Errant. And then I have the jewelry of Knights Errant. So it's a really interesting combination. But going over how this stuff is set up, we have a medium helm with tri-stats, invigorating. This is going to give you the good balance of stats. It's going to give you good recovery rates. So you can play into the higher stam recovery, higher magic recovery, higher health recovery, depending on what race you are, and all that stuff. And the tri-stats help you with having a good resource in all 3 pools. The next one is the Knights Errant chest, which is heavy, divines. It should be reinforced. I thought I did change that. Reinforced would be the better option here, but I guess I made a mistake. And that happens. But reinforced would be the better option. So you can see the tri-stat here as well, and we're going to keep on with that routine into the legs. We're going to have the tri-stat and invigorating. On the smaller pieces, we do have sturdy with max health. Now, using sturdy with max health is primarily there because we play with a sword and shield. So using sword and shield, you can take advantage of that sturdy capability to give you better block cost reduction and saves you resources because you will be blocking a lot. Sword and shield, that's kind of the purpose. But you're not going to be permanently blocking. That's not the idea of this build. And excuse me for coughing and stuff. I took my allergy meds this morning, and they're taking a little bit longer to kick in, so I apologize. All right, so now that I've shown you guys that, with the smaller pieces being sturdy, max health, and the traits and enchants there, we're going to move to the jewelry. And just like with a lot of my builds, 2 tri-rune rings with weapon damage. And the reason I go weapon damage is because even though this character might look like a tank to a lot of people, it's a paladin. A paladin is still a melee type character. They still got to have that ability to deal damage. So I put into weapon damage to give them that capability. The next thing is we do have an infused necklace magic recovery, but this is where things get different. So onto the weapon sets, because we are using weapon sets. Now, these weapon sets are not going to be hard to get because these are normal versions of the weapon sets. So you just have to run the normal content to get them. The first one is the Master's Sword and Shield. Now, this is Nirnhoned with Hardening. The reason for the Nirnhoned is to give you that increased weapon and spell damage. Excuse me. Don't mean to keep clearing my throat. But if I don't, I'm going to start coughing and it gets even worse. So Nirnhoned, increased weapon damage and spell damage by 15%. But the Hardening one grants you a 1908 point damage shield for 5 seconds. This just gives you that extra protective layer when you're fighting to get out of those moments. And you can take advantage of this set and the Knights Errant together. So this set, when you deal damage with Puncture, you heal for 6,743 health and gain gain physical or spell and physical resistance equal to the amount of healing or overhealing done for 5 seconds. So even if you don't have your buff up for resistance, you're going to get over the amount you need. And you're gonna constantly have this buff of resistance because you're using that puncture a lot. Now it only lasts for 5 seconds. So if you're not puncturing every 5 seconds, don't worry, because you're still going to have a resistance buff that's going to put you at cap. But this makes you more movable in the fight, because the way the buff for Templars works is when you put it down. Sorry. Oops. I didn't change it back. I got to do something. Hold on. My bad. So when you have your buff up for your resistances and you're standing in it, you can see you go to pretty much cap almost, right? And then when you step out of it, you actually go below that. Well, not by a huge margin, but by enough that 6,000 something that you're going to get in health as resistances will play the part. But also when you run out of the resistance, that 6,000 something is going to play into your character, even regardless if you have your buff up or not. So you can still take advantage of that high resistance from that set, and it makes it a really powerful thing to use. Alright, the next set we're using is the Black Rose Prison set. Now, this is a really interesting set, and it is infused, the sword is, with weapon damage. And just to show you the shields are sturdy with tri-stats, both shields. But this set is really unique in how it works. So, this one, besides being infused, giving weapon spell damage, the bonus from it is reduces the cost of shield charge by 25% and reduces the cost of your next shield charge or your next non-shield charge one-handed ability cast within 3 seconds by 100. So the way this works is when you use your shield charge on the back bar and you go into that shield charge, you can use your next shield ability, which is going to be Reverberating Bash, at no cost. So you can literally bounce between the two and save a ton of resources. And it's a really good way to keep your damage aggression up, I'll say. Alright. So, now that I've shown you guys the gear sets and everything, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you the skills. Now, the skills here are really just, this is how I would play it normally. You know, if I was playing in a group or I was just playing it normally. But there is ways you can set it up for aggressive damage. There is ways you can set it up for different ways of play. So, going over the skills we have on our bar, starting with the main bar, we have Piercing Armor. This is a really powerful attack. It does apply Taunt. It also applies Major Fracture and Major Breach, reducing physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 15 seconds. And it taunts the enemy for the same amount of time. The next one we're using is Heroic Slash. Now, this is probably one of several builds that will or will not use Heroic Slash. So Heroic Slash deals damage up front, but it deals damage to a single target. and it applies minor maim to that single target for 12 seconds, which reduces their damage done by 15%. Your minor, you gain minor heroism for granting you one ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. There's a reason we want this ultimate gain, and I'll get to that in a minute. The next ability we have on our bar is Blazing Shield. This is our protective bubble. We aren't using the sword and shield shield buff. We're using our own class one, and as you can see, it gives us a shield for 8,907 damage. That'll absorb that much. It is based off your max health, so some races in this setup will have more health than the Breton will, but the shield strength also grows for each enemy near you by 4%, and then when the shield expires, any damage you've absorbed explodes out and deals 34% of that damage you absorbed. So it's a really good balance there. Excuse me again. Moving on. Next ability we have is Echoing Vigor. This is primarily there for the purpose to help alleviate some trouble from our healer, so we can help assist the healer in keeping some group members going in a fight and help ourselves stay alive. The next ability we have is Evil Hunter. This is here because it gives us this major savagery. It also gives us an increased damage to our stamina costing fighters guild abilities, which we don't have any on our bar, which is fine. We still have access to them if we need them. The next ability we have is Dawnbreaker Smiting. Now, Dawnbreaker Smiting is, all it is the difference between it and the Flawless Dawnbreaker is this one stuns enemies over 2 seconds, but it still deals the damage, while the other one gives you 300 weapon damage. That would really apply well to this, but I like the Dawnbreaker Smiting, especially in trash groups, when you got them compiled together and you drop this and you can smite them all and knock them all down. So it's a really good way to keep that stun effect going. Now, moving on to the back bar. On the back bar, we have our first ability, which is Shielded Assault. Now this one, you rush an enemy, dealing damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. Then on top of that, the attack gives you a shield that absorbs 4,599 damage for 6 seconds. This also scales off your max health. Next ability we have is Ritual Retribution. This does an AoE dot heal. So it does AoE damage, AoE healing, and then on top of that it also purifies you of 2 negative effects. So this is a good way to remove negative effects when you're in dungeons and stuff, or even in Overland in certain situations. And then on top of that, it also has a synergy attached to it, which is really good for group play. The next ability we have is Reverberating Bash. And this is a really powerful ability for dealing damage, because it strikes an enemy at full force with your shield, dealing X amount of physical damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. After the stun ends, the enemies take an additional 3,598 physical damage, which is good. Next ability we have is Restoring Focus. This one does Major Resolve, which gives you increased physical spell resistance for 20 seconds, and then while this is active, you also gain 240 stamina every second. The other thing is that when you're standing in the circle, you get an increased physical and spell resistance granted to you by 50% of your total resistance value. Next up, we get Evil Hunter. Again, this is there for the increased, some major savagery, increasing our crit chance and stuff like that. And then here is a floater, really, a floater ability you can use pretty much a million different options, and that is Shield Discipline. So this one, you reinforce your shield, allowing you to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 8 seconds. Your one-handed sword and shield abilities cost nothing while this effect persists. So that means you can use your Shield Assault, you can use your Reverberating Bash, and you can even swap bars and use your Pierce Armor and Heroic Slash in a spammable way. So you can take advantage of all the different effects you get from all these different things. So it's actually a really good skill. And there are several others you can use in its place. If you wanted to do some minor or major maim, you can apply Solar Disturbance there. You could go into Alliance War if you want to have some War Horns, or even in support and grab Reviving Barrier. There's a lot of options. Alright, now that I've done that, I am going to go through the skills. So the skills I do have unlocked on this build are Empowering Sweeps, Biting Jabs, Binding Javelin, Explosive Charge, Blazing Spear, and Blazing Shield. Moving on to the back bar, moving on to the Dawn's Wrath abilities, we have Solar Disturbance, Vampire's Bane, Solar Barrage, Power of the Light, Living Dark, and Radiant Glory. And then moving on from there to Restoring Light, we have Practice Incarnation, Honor the Dead, Hasty Prayer, Repentance, Ritual Retribution, and Restoring Focus. And then, of course, if you move on from there to One-Handed Sword and Shield, we have our Shield Discipline, Pierce Armor, Heroic Slash, Absorb Missiles, Shielded Assault, and Reverberating Bash. Armor, we are a heavy armor build, so I do have Immovable unlocked. It is actually a really good way of getting physical and spell resist, and it works well with the idea that you have this sword and shield that gives you really high resistance buff, so you don't really need this, or need this one. You could actually use this if you wanted to, but the problem with this is it does reduce your movement speed by 65% for the duration of 20 seconds. So it does remove any knockbacks and disabling effects from you, which can work out in both PvE and PvP. And then each piece of heavy armor worn increases the amount of damage you block and the potency of the snare by 5%. So it gives you this really powerful capability of blocking damage as well. Soul magic, we have Shatter Soul and Consuming Trap. Fighters Guild, we have Dawnbreaker of Smiting, Silver Leash, Turn Evil, Evil Hunter, and Barb Trap. Mages Guild, we have Ice Comet, Inner Light, Degeneration, Scalding Ruin, and Balance. And then Sigic Order, Temporal Guard, Borrowed Time, Crushing Weapon, Channeled Acceleration, Min Spirit, and Deep Thoughts. And then on Dawned, we have Sanguine Altar, Tangling Webs, Inner Beast, Spiked Bone Shield, and Energy Orb. And this is the healing one, just so you know. Assault, we have Aggressive Horn, Echoing Vigor, Razor Caltrops, and then, of course, in the support line, we have Reviving Barrier, Efficient Purge, Stalwart Guard, and Magicka Aid. And then, of course, over here, we are a Breton. Being a Breton, you get Opportunist, which increases the amount of experience you gain for light armor skill line. Also increases your alliance point gain by 1%. You get Gift of the Magus, which increases max magicka by 2,000. You get Spell Attunement, which increases your spell resistance by 2310. This effect is doubled if you are afflicted with Burning, Chill, or Cursed, and increases the amount of magic recovery you have by 100. And then, of course, we have Magicka Mastery. Reduces the cost of your Magicka abilities by 7%. So any Magicka ability you cast is 7% cheaper. Makes for a really interesting heal play. Next up, we have Alchemy, Medicinal Use, and Provisioning, Gourmand, and Connoisseur. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do the CP real quick, and then I'm going to show you this in action. But I'm going to talk a little bit about some other things after I do the CP. So, 56 in the Ironclad, this reduces your damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. You have 4 in the Spell Shield, increasing your spell resistance by 413. You have 31 into Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. You have 23 into Hardy, reducing physical damage, physical poison, disease damage by 10%. And then you have 43 into Elemental Expert, which reduces flame, frost, shock, and magic damage by 10%. Moving on, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing health received by 5%. And then 34 into Physical Armor Focus, which increases your physical resistance by 2980 while wearing 5 pieces or more of heavy armor. Moving on, we have 40 into Warlord. This reduces your break free cost by 16%. We have 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 16 or 10%. And then we have 43 into Arcanus, increasing your mag recovery by 75. And then we have 75 into Tenacity. This increases the magic and stamina of your fully charged heavy attacks by 14%. Now, I am going to be clear on this. So, wearing heavy armor, you get a 30-something% return of resources, 25% return of resources on your heavy attacks. This allows you to get 14% more on top of that, plus another, you get 74% or 79%, something like that. It's something ridiculous. Moving on, we have 40 into Tumbling. This reduces your dodge roll cost by 16%, and 40 into Shadow Ward. This reduces your block cost by 16%. You actually get a 26% or a 36% reduced block cost. Moving on, we get 43 into Blessed. This increases your healing done by 10%. I'm wrong. It's 40% reduced block cost, or something close to that. So, but increase your healing done by 10%. We have 35 into Physical Weapon Expert. This increases your light and heavy attack damage with any ability by 20%, and then 40 into Master at Arms, increasing your direct damage done by 16%. Remember, Sword and Shield does physical damage, and all of its attacks, light and heavy, are considered direct damage. Next, we have 56 in the Mighty, increasing your physical poison disease damage done by 12%. 56 in the Precise Strikes, increasing critical damage and critical healing with stamina abilities by 20%, and 40 in the Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. So, a lot of people are going to question the CP setup, and I understand that, but you have to understand, I don't play the same way as a lot of other people. When I play this game, I don't play just overland, delves, public dungeons, that kind of stuff. I play dungeons, I play trials, I play PvP, I play all aspects of the game. I want my character to be so well-rounded that when I play the game, I can take on anything I need to with the way they play. And I have all these skills and abilities that make me have a lot of situational play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys this build in action. I'm going to take it in this dungeon, I'm going to play around with it, and I'm going to show you how the build works. Because it is quite the interesting build, and I'll admit, it's not super strong, but you're not using a lot of damage dealing skills. You're using a lot of protective based skills that give you that survivability that you wouldn't get any other way. And it's a habit of mine to follow a rotation, so it's, if I throw skills out, it's because of that purpose, so. And people say that you don't crit a lot if you don't have a super high crit chance. If you guys haven't noticed, I have been critting quite a bit. And when I do crit, I hit for a lot of damage. And that's because that's the way the build is set up. The build is set up to do a decent amount of crit when it needs to. So I can do things like that. I can go from a heavy attack into a shield bash or a reverberating bash into that. And there is times that I even use shield bash because it's just super easy for me to do that all at once. So. That's why I like Dawnbreaker Smiting. Because you can knock down all those enemies. Yeah, it's only for 2 seconds, but that's 2 seconds they're not doing damage. So, which can play a big difference in a group setting, so. And you'll notice I'm doing a lot of heavy attacks. The reason why is because I use heavy attacks a lot anyways. It became second nature to me when I play with Sword and Shield to use a lot of heavy attacks for resource return and to do that. So I can shield bash and I can keep my resources coming in and all that. And look at this, I'm not even using my resistance buff because I'm already at cap. And I'm only doing that because the Sword and Shield is so powerful with that buff that I don't really need my resistance buff all the time, because I'm using taunt and I'm using the heroic slash, I'm using all this stuff. So I don't really need to buff myself for resistances as much. Even though I get resources back when doing so. He's going to come around that corner. We're going to sneak up on him. Now this is the great thing. Watch this. I'm going to just stand here. Because I have so much healing going on from the character itself because of all the skills we have, I don't need to worry too much about it. I can just stand here and just do this all day. But this time I am going to get out of it because it is stupid to stand there. The other thing you have to remember is these things have a lot more resistances than those in the Overland. In the Overland, it is a lot easier to kill stuff with this build, the way it's set up, because you have so much penetration that you almost remove all their resistance values and such. So oops, wrong ability. And I am gonna let him kill me here in a second, guys. I'm just showing you, like, yes, I don't have a lot of DPS, but I can still solo this boss like it's nothing. Because of the fact I have so much survivability. When I use certain abilities, like, I can use my taunt. I'm gonna let this thing do some damage. I'm gonna taunt it, and you'll see I go almost to full health. Because I've got such insane healing from my taunt alone. So, but I did want to die anyways, so I can go back to the Way Shrine and close out the video. But that's pretty much the build in a nutshell. It works really well. It's very powerful in what it does. And it has a lot of different tools that allow it to be really flexible and really defensive. So even as a person with 25k health, I have all these tools that make me really defensive and allow me to absorb a lot of damage. Because I've got heals, I've got shields, I've got, you know, these buffs from my different sets that do different things and give me all this different power. So you have all this different stuff that plays into the build and allows for it to be really flexible. So even if you were wanting to play this build as a DPS, you can still play, not true DPS, but you could play some damage involved. You could just swap out that skill, and actually I would do something more along the lines of something like this, and then on the back bar I would just do this. Because now I have all those extra damage abilities. And then I could also go down here to the Mage's Guild if I want and grab Ice Comet and put it here. Or I can grab my own class ability, Dawn's Wraith, and put it there. I have options. Or I can even put Empowering Sweep on the back bar. So you have all these different options in how you can play with the build, and you can do damage. And you still get increased weapon damage from the back bar because you have that buff there. And you might not get a dot that allows you to keep it up, but you still get that buff there for a little bit of time while you're on the back bar using your Shield Smash and your Reverberating Dash and all that stuff, which will keep your damage up. Then depending on who you're playing with, if somebody has a buff that buffs you as well for weapon and spell damage, you get that on top of all that other stuff. So you get this really good amount of weapon, spell damage, and stuff, so you can play more aggressively in DPS. You can play more aggressively in you know, like in Overland, or even in PvP, or in whatever you're doing, based on what skills you want to use, or what tools you want to use. So you have all this different stuff that plays in this build really well. And that is pretty much it for the build, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.